G'day folks and welcome to the Vookcast, Australia's Nintendo podcast. My name's Oliver Brandt and in this episode I'm joined by Angelo Valdivia.
Hey Paisanos.
Michael Goncalves.
Hey team.
And Luke Henderson.
Hello.
We've got a great episode lined up for you, all about an update to a few classic games, some Donkey Kong love from Nintendo, real information about the Switch 2 for once, and more. But first, let's talk about Nintendo's recent financials report. So as pretty much everyone expected, the Switch is kind of falling in its sales. The year on year, I don't think we have it listed here, but it's like a 40% drop or something. Pretty significant. And Nintendo had to change its forecast to be a little bit lower. For the financial year, which is not surprising. The Switch is very much on its way out. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, we know, sold 2.58 million copies in 4 days, which is a fantastic showing for a 2D Zelda. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is somehow still selling. It sold 2.31 million units during the last quarter, which is just absurd. And the other highlights are the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition and MEO did not break 1 million copies sold in the quarter that they released, which, you know, I don't think anybody expected that. But yeah, it's clear from the numbers that like the Switch is on its way out, right? Like there's not a lot of consumer interest anymore in new Switches. So
I mean, there'd be consumer interest if, you know, for the like 5th year in a row, they stopped shoving Mario Kart into a holiday bundle and calling it new.
Well, it keeps fucking selling. That's the thing. Mario Kart is just like the consistent, like, oh, it's sold like 3 million in the last quarter. People love it. Like, it just, I don't know why. Like, no wonder they keep putting it in bundles because it keeps selling.
They're not wrong. The game is absolutely incredible. So
Yeah, but they
later.
could clearly sell the game on its own and sell a bundle with a different game, and it's probably still sell just as many Mario Karts.
Well, yeah, but like it's obvious like this was the game that like most people who own a Switch will want to play. So bundling it with a Switch makes sense because it's like, well, you know,
It
if
does
you were
support
interested in a Switch, this
local,
might be
right? Like the local
What's that?
doesn't require a Wi-Fi connection. You can play like local Switch to Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think there's many games that actively support that anymore. I think the first Mario Party did. I don't know about the more recent one. I think that's probably one of the big things too. Is like kids can just play together without having to configure their home network, or you know, if they're out and about, you know, at a wedding or something, the kids can be shoved in a corner with a Switch and Mario Kart, and off they go. So I think that's probably one of the big reasons. It's just easy for people to get into it and not have to worry about setup.
Well, that's it. Like when you got like a couple of 5-year-olds or something like that, or like, you know, 5 and a 6 or 7-year-old, and you don't have a game console. You just get one game console and then Mario Kart, and they're good for like a year or two. And then you have to buy the what's it called? The Switch Mini, whatever that's called. I don't have it. It's a piece of shit. But like you get one of those.
Switch
Yeah, there we go. But then you get one of those, and then you have to get another copy of Mario Kart because, you know, little Jimmy needs his own Switch. Sorry, I completely blanked on the Switch Lite.
The Switch Mini, I don't know, whatever it is, it's a piece of shit. That's the sentence of the podcast so far. We're like 5 minutes in.
Yeah,
Don't forget, they did a Wii Mini, and the Wii Mini stripped out like the eShop and like, you know, almost everything. So I don't imagine what a Switch Mini would ever look like.
The Wii Mini was funny because like they literally just pushed it over, made it flat, and then took out the ability to go backwards compatible. So they literally just pushed it over, broke it, and was like, there you go, another $100, please.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so Switch is like clearly on its way out. And we still don't have a successor. But that does transition nicely into our next point, which is that we actually have real information about the successor to the Nintendo Switch. So after the forecast, Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa confirmed that the Switch successor will be backwards compatible with Nintendo Switch titles, which, I mean, Luke's written great news for physical collectors. We don't know for sure if physical games are definitely going to be supported. They should be. it would be weird if Nintendo didn't. Right?
Why are you putting that out in the world, Ollie? Just don't say the
I'm
words.
just saying we don't know 100%, but realistically, it's going to support physical games because Nintendo makes a lot of money off physical games. So
Yeah, I feel like it would be an insane choice to not support physical games.
Well, it'd be for the reason, like I said before, like you got to buy 2 copies of Mario Kart for your 2+ children. Like, can't get away with one.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is like the first like confirmed feature that we have of the next Switch, which like again, like I didn't think there was ever any doubt that there would be backwards compatibility. A lot of people did doubt it, but I was like from the beginning I was saying that like there was zero doubt. And I even promised on this podcast that if it didn't have backwards compatibility, I would buy everybody here the Switch 2. And that was like 2 years ago. Fucking like back when
I've never been
we were about to get
so
the Switch 2.
so torn on something in my life, like wanting backwards compatibility and also not wanting it at the same time.
But yeah, I mean, it was obvious that it was going to happen, right? Like Nintendo, on its handhelds at least, for the most part, has had backwards compatibility the entire time. And in home consoles where it's made sense and been kind of possible, they have as well. Like the transition from N64 to GameCube, obviously, having a cartridge slot was probably not on the cards. But between GameCube and Wii U, there was backwards compatibility, and really the shift to Switch only couldn't happen because of the change in form factor, both on the handheld and home console side. So, people were annoyed that there wasn't backwards compatibility on the Switch, but it also wasn't really viable, right? Like,
I mean, I'm old enough to remember having a Discman. CDs in your pocket always boded well for quality of music. I couldn't imagine Wii U game discs on the back of a console being great for gameplay.
I mean, that was the PSP though. They had
Skip though.
No, because it basically just like buffered the entire disc as soon as it had the opportunity to do so. In any case,
I love these. Bring those back.
I think everyone a lot of people dislike them, but I'm with you. I really like them, but I also love like mini disc. To me, that's just like mini disc again, right? And I'm just like, it's just so cool.
I never had a mini disc player, but I always wanted one. And then MP3 players came out, and I'm like, I kind of still want a mini disc.
Yep, same.
Just something cool about a little cartridge with a spinning disc in it.
I mean, mini discs were like still going in Japan, like up until like 2019. They were still making new mini disc players.
Wild.
Because people just like had huge collections of mini discs, and like, why would you stop, right? Anyway, Switch 2 backwards compatibility. They've also confirmed that Nintendo Switch Online is going to be on the Switch 2 on day one, so it should have all of the games that. I mean, it would be weird if they had backwards compatibility, and then we're also like, by the way, here's the 20 starting NES games. Good luck, fuckers.
Don't worry, everyone. You're still going to get 1,000 new AI-generated games every week.
Well, that's the other
at least the 10,000 that have come out will still be compatible.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, is that like we do kind of know that there is going to be some sort of unified eShop between the Switch and the Switch 2, which is a bit of a bummer, but also like it's how it should be, I guess.
They really I can keep playing Uwu Waifu 9, and that's all good.
They really need to figure out something to stop this. Like, it's just the launch day Switch 2 eShop is going to be a fucking nightmare realm if they don't have something in place.
Yep.
As long as there's a filter that just says only show me Switch 2 games, like
then like the first month will be like really solid, and then after that it will just be trash again.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is a problem that like we've started seeing on other consoles as well. Like, you got to hand it to Nintendo. They were pioneers in the field of just allowing anything onto the fucking eShop. Because you look on the PlayStation Store now, and it's the same, just like AI generated bullshit and stuff that just like pops like 20 trophies at once, and like it is a bad time.
But the difference there is that I very rarely see any of those games, whereas on the eShop, that's all I see.
I mean, I guess it depends how you use the eShop, right? Like, I just don't.
Yeah. I genuinely, I open up the eShop. The PlayStation Store. I genuinely don't see like that. AI Gen games that have like the 10 title long thing, something. I don't know, Crash Simulator or
Right, but
whatever.
like,
Unlike
how
what you see on
long?
the
Like,
Switch.
how often do you navigate to the new releases button on
Every couple of weeks, every
PlayStation
month or
Store?
so.
Right, because like I go to the new releases button on PlayStation Store and it's filled with that shit. Because it's the same feed as on the Switch when you go to the new releases tab, right? Like, if you just use like the home screen or search for what you're interested in or whatever, then like obviously you're going to avoid most of that, not all of it. But it's a problem either way. Like, it needs to be sorted out, especially when there's like overt copyright issues. Yeah, it's horrible. And I don't think any digital storefront is good for it. Like, but
I mean, I see all ads all the time on Instagram and YouTube where it's all like crypto scams and all that sort of shit as well. So it's not just video game consoles are doing it. But I'm looking at the eShop webpage on nintendo.com.au, and my personal arch nemesis developer Red Deer.games is there with Magic Cat Pots Deluxe Edition, brand new release, down to $3. It's like 80% off, and it's brand new. It's like, these guys need to go away. But right next to it, there's a game. It's called 2 Weistein in Aspan. It's the number 2. Weistein is the first word, and it's like, that's not quality.
I mean, it might be. I mean, we haven't played it, right? Like,
No, you look at the
it could be a
screens and you
good
can
game
tell.
with just.
But right
I mean,
below
could
it,
be a
it just
good game
says
with
this
a
is the
shit
German
name.
version of 2 Weistein in Asban. It's like, it's not the German version. It's the same thing. My point is, and I wrote a whole thing on this for Vooks, is that Nintendo need to tighten up their thing. They released the restrictions in the Wii U era because they had nothing, because nobody wanted to make for the dead console, and there are too many people that have just taken advantage of it, and Nintendo just aren't doing anything to stop it. So they need to do something.
It's a weird situation, right? It's like there's no, like, you can't go full curation because like that just means that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games just don't get released that are good games that are earnestly made. But like, the way that they're doing it now obviously isn't working either, and like, I don't know where the balance is there, right? Like, we could say like, oh, only certain publishers are allowed to put games on there, and like that is kind of the case, right? Like, you do need to be approved as a publisher on Switch, but like the problem is that like right now, once you've been approved as a publisher, you can publish basically whatever you want as long as it doesn't brick the console. So what will usually happen with these is that like they will release a mostly competent game that isn't like obvious scam bait, the first game that they have, because that will get them into the Nintendo developer program and they can release it there. And then after that, they'll just like, flood the shop with just bullshit, basically. And like, I don't know what better system there is for that, right? Like, I don't know how you do this other than just like full curation, like the Epic Game Store, which is like has its own problems as well. So, yeah.
My personal opinion is that they should let anyone can register to be a developer. That's fine. I have no issue with that. But there should be a content limit. Like, you shouldn't be able to publish out 6 games a month, because no developer can make 6 games a month. Unless you're either abusing the hell out of AI, or you're recycling everything you're making, in which case you're not making quality. Like, again, I bring up Red Deer games all the time because they've made a few Smurf games. There's a Warhammer game they've made. So they're putting effort into things, but then they recycle, that AAA clock. There's like, between the standard version and then like the ultimate edition, there's some 50, 60 different versions of that stupid thing. And they need to stop it. And then I'm looking at another one here. It's called Eldora Games, and they just use AI generated screenshots for their visual novel games. And you look at the screens and you can tell it's AI because people are missing fingers and they've got hooves for feet and all sort of shit. So I think they just need to like put in restrictions on how much people can do, because again, if you're pumping out 3 games a month and it's the same game but one's deluxe, one's on an ultimate edition, but they're all new releases. Like, well, no, they're not. They're not new releases.
I
So
think
yeah,
I think at the very least you could stop the deep discounts at launch, like the 90%
Yeah.
off. Like, you know, the game is now $3, like bullshit. Like that's clearly like scam behavior. Like no publisher would ever launch their brand new game at 90% off.
yeah.
So
The other one that I'd love to see them get rid of is this SEO title bullshit. There's one here: Grand Rush Highway Car Traffic Racing Simulator. It's like that's not a name. That's you putting in the keywords. So when people search for traffic racing game, this comes up.
I think like the only issue that I have with like the having like a limit on how many games per month or whatever you can publish is that like it would prevent situations like the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters being released all at once, right? Because those were 6 games that were released on the same day. And I know that that's a rarity, right?
I imagine there'd
not
be
a common
tiers though.
thing.
I imagine there'd be tiers. Like if you're Square Enix, you're allowed to publish 6 games a month. But you know, if you're Pete Smith, you know, first time developer putting out, you know, a game, you shouldn't be allowed to publish out, you know, X number of games every month until you've achieved a certain milestone. Like, you know, I don't know. There's some developers I would understand that they would do it, and maybe it's an exception system. Maybe they have to apply for, hey, we've got this collection of games coming out, but we're going to let the people buy them individually, so it's going to be X number of releases this month. Maybe that's how it has to be. I don't know. I'm not working for Nintendo. I'm not going to give them, say this is the rule you have to follow, but they need to do something because at the moment it's trash.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm very firmly of the belief that there are no good digital stores right now. Like Steam is like kind of a hot mess. The Epic Games Store is like the most curated of the stores, but like also just has crypto trash on there because Steam banned it, and then Epic Games was like, hey, we'll have all of your crypto scam games, why not? And then like, you know, the consoles all have their own different issues. Like searching for anything on the Xbox store is a hot mess. Like it is next to impossible because like you'll type in like, you know, Final Fantasy and it will show you anything that has the words final or fantasy in the description of the game and just like not prioritize anything at all.
yeah, it's using Bing.
And unless you go specifically into the games section, it'll also start including apps and movies and TV shows. It's like, fuck off. I'm on a games console. I want games first.
Yeah.
Should be default. Yeah. Xbox annoys me.
Yeah. And then like the PlayStation Store, I mean, it has issues as well. I think it's probably for the most part, the best to search on, but like actual discoverability is like a bit naff. Like I don't know. None of them are great.
I think the search functionality on Steam is perfect. I don't think I've ever tried to search for a game and not got exactly what I was looking for. Like it's really good.
The one thing I would say about Epic is when you search for a game, if they don't have it, 9 times out of 10 they'll generally have like, oh, we don't have it, but these other storefronts might, and they'll link you to Steam or Xbox or, you know, a different website that might sell PC games. So they do that, which I think is nice if they don't have something. But yeah, that's the only thing I have nice to say about the Epic Store.
I mean, really, like the top tier store, if you want to find very specific content, is Ubisoft Connect, because there's like 6 games on there, so it's very easy to find what you're looking for. God, I'm so glad we're like past the age of like having a launcher for every single fucking publisher on PC, because
oh no, we're still there.
We're not entirely past it, but like obviously people are seeing like the Activision launcher or whatever is like dead now. Take-Two, yeah.
Take-Two, 2K, the 2K launcher.
Yeah, the 2K launcher,
yeah.
but
yeah,
they've still got their Rockstar one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you know, we're getting there.
I can't believe none of us mentioned the fact that GOG store is pretty decent.
It is pretty decent. I had an interview with the general manager of GOG a couple months ago, and they are like a really, really good company doing really, really fantastic things. So, you know, mad props to GOG. And like the interesting thing about GOG is that they actively like they're not waiting for like publishers to come to them with their old games or whatever. They're like actively seeking out opportunities to bring old games. Like
They did it.
they have a
the,
whole research team that's like, is this viable? Who owns the rights? Like they have a huge team dedicated to finding the rights owners to old games because it's not always clear. So yeah,
They did that
really
recently too
fantastic.
with the original Resident Evil games. So the original PS1 games, they made them. They brought them over to PC, modern PC, and have everything working the way it's supposed to. So yeah, they're great for preservation. So
yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got there from Switch 2, but here we are. Speaking of old games being modernized, Rockstar has released an update for the Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition trilogy. And it actually fixes it. So anybody who remembers the original release of that on Switch, it was not great. And then a Netflix version came out last year. I think it was like
2023.
Yeah, last year, and like massively overhauled it. It was much better. It was a different developer, and now that update to it is on all of the consoles. So the lighting is much closer to what was originally released. It's got additional tweaks for the textures, which were bad, and some of them were very obviously just like AI upscaled rubbish previously, and they're much better now. And yeah, just generally a much better looking and playing game than it was 2 years ago when it was released.
Which is kind of insane because the studio that did the original release of this stuff they're called Grove Street Games. They named themselves after the San Andreas street that the game comes from, Grove Street. And they made this, and then I was like, oh, that's pretty bad. And kudos to them. They did try and fix things, with a bunch of big updates post launch. But then, like a year later, they did the Ark remake. They remade the Ark game on Switch because the original launch of that was horrible. And then for some reason, the Switch version of Ark that they made was fantastic. Like it's a really good version of that game on Switch.
I think it's pretty clear that Rockstar fucked them on this pretty hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the tweet. I don't know. Like, this is obviously unverifiable, but it was a tweet from the head of that studio because they removed the splash screen of the studio from the game.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come up anymore. And he basically said that a ton of those fixes, like a large amount of them, were done by that studio. And they just Rockstar removed their developer logo from the game, which is pretty bullshit.
I mean, they're still in the credits, right? Like, so, like they still
for sure
credited at the end, but like they should be on the splash screen, right? Like the version of the game that exists, 90% of it is based on what Grove Street did. So they did get screwed around.
Even this is what they're saying though. Even this version, a large amount of those fixes are done by them.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. I say interesting, but it's funny that the studio that did the mobile versions is an Australian studio, and they're made up of Tim Bondi staff. And they did the Rockstar, the LA Noire VR game as well. So it's a bit of a weird little cycle. But yeah, I just think it's funny that that it's 2 years after the last update on Switch. And what's even weirder is that the update hit all the other platforms first.
Yeah,
and we were
then they just didn't say anything about it. Like the blog post announcing the update just like didn't mention Switch at all. So it's like, okay, well, are we just like getting like screwed on this one? But no, just like a few days later.
Isn't the patch notes like 2 lines and then barely mention anything about any of the updates they did?
Yeah. Angelo, are you going to go back and play the Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition on Switch?
I mean, I still dip in and out of it on Xbox. I got that a couple of years ago, not long after they did the initial like mother load of fixes to the game or games. But I don't know, man. I was just reflecting on this a little bit. I've been listening to the audio. Listening to the audiobooks of Jason Schreier's series at the moment, getting up to Play Nice, which is his latest one about Blizzard. And went through Blood, Sweat, and Pixels and what was the other one?
Press reset.
And just all of this whole, it was funny because like I saw this story come out at the same time that I was listening to Press Reset and Blood, Sweat and Pixels, and like it completely lines up with everything that he's talking about in terms of 2K and Take-Two's handling of BioShock back in the day, how they just completely screwed over like all of the various 2K studios, particularly Australia, and yeah, like just basically just liquidating the company like very, very quietly, or trying to liquidate teams quietly and move them around to different places and things like that, just effectively just like deleting studios that they have under their banner. And this just kind of lines up with that sort of story from like 15 years ago where they did the same sort of thing, you know, just sweeping Grove Street right under the rug, and just yeah, not giving credit where credit's due, but also I don't know, man, just we're in this really weird place still where games come out, and I mentioned this earlier before the podcast, and like it still takes like 2 or 3 years before the game is even close to a finished state. So I don't know. I doubt this will be the last time we see any improvements or changes to this game, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of my take on it. It just kind of all lines up with how Take-Two sort of runs its businesses.
Yeah, they're all about getting the money first and then worrying about everything else later. And they've been doing that for.
I don't even know if it's necessarily that. It's just I don't know. They just reshuffle their deck all the time, right? They're just constantly moving people around or changing things under the hood whenever they want to. It's not like this studio is this studio and that studio is that studio. It's like, oh no, they're all just ours. We'll just move things and do things however we want to do them.
I think
we don't have to tell anyone. We don't have
9.
to announce anything. Doesn't matter if, like, you know, we've got people who work in one city on one side of the US who have families and stuff. We'll just, you know, give them the opportunity to move to the other side of the city, and if they don't want to move, then that's it. We'll cut them dry or something like that. It's just
A prime example of that, and you know, tangent, but Hangar 13 is a studio that they own. It was started up by Hayden Blackman, who did the Force Unleashed games for LucasArts, and then did Medal of Honor previous to that. He was the founder of Hangar 13, and the headquarters is in Nevada, California. But they started up a second studio in London, and then a third one in Hungary. And then they cancelled his game, so he left the studio, and now the leader of the Hangar 13 is out in the UK. So now all the management is being done by the UK. So all the people that were basically leading the studio in the US don't have those jobs anymore because they decided to give the leadership job to another person in another country. Which, again, you know, whatever. But it's like they've made those decisions far too often, and they did it. You know, 2 years ago they laid off a whole bunch of people to save money, and then they did it. You know, 12 months later they laid off more people, but then a few months after that they bought Gearbox. They bought Gearbox and all the associated things from them, from Embracer. So yeah, 2K is unfortunately all over the place. They're a weird group.
Generally, like, imagine like buying Gearbox and like not getting rid of Randy Pitchford. That would be like the first thing that I do.
Yep.
Dude is like a menace. Like, Jesus.
And
Like, he had like a full-on meltdown when like people hated the terrible Borderlands movie.
Anyone who you know goes to you at a party and says, "Hey, do you want to see a magic trick?" That's usually code for "get the fuck out of here," because this person is creepy as hell. Yeah. And I say this knowing Guy, who was like the setup founder for PAX Australia. He doesn't walk up to people and do that. People approach him and ask him to do tricks. There's a difference. Randy Pitchford, unfortunately, just wants to do magic for everyone, and it's never good.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, GTA kind of good on Switch now.
Yeah, I'll say I did put some time in recently, a couple of hours into Vice City, and it's just so much better. It's a bit smoother. The game looks right. It just plays and feels great now. So I'm happy.
Alrighty. Moving on. This is just a silly little story that is relevant to very few people, but it's fun. So Zonai device magnets have arrived in gacha machines at Nintendo stores in Japan. So those who don't know, at the Nintendo store in Japan, and I mean it's a pretty big thing in Japan in general, they have these gacha machines where you put in a few bucks and spin the handle and get a little capsule toy. We've had previously, and I think they're still there. That these haven't replaced the controller ones. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
Anyway, there were these like little controller pieces. Luke has a few. Yeah. And now these are magnets that are based on the Zonai devices from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which, by the way, just while we're mentioning Tears of the Kingdom, it is on sale on the Nintendo Switch eShop for the first time. So anybody who wants to get that, do that.
It's only until tonight, though, right?
No, I think it's only for like the 3rd of December or something, right? Like you got a couple days.
Oh,
Fingers
tomorrow.
By the time
by the time they hear this podcast in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Don't tell them the info on how shit we are at podcasting.
Yeah, so these cost 600 yen, which is about $6, to get one of them, and you can only get 2 at a time before you have to go back to the back of the line. And in my experience, the lines are pretty substantial for these. When I was in the Nintendo store in Tokyo Skytree, there were a lot. There were a lot of people trying to get gacha things, but it wasn't too bad. I think the Pokemon store was worse.
Yeah, I mean, so when I did the store a couple of weeks ago, when I walked up there, the bucket, the machine for the good ones, the new ones, was marked as out of stock. And I was like, oh, but I filled it up while I was in the store, so it was like no line. I jumped straight in, and I managed to get back in a second time. And when I went back a couple of days later, I think the longest was about 10 or 12 people, so it wasn't too bad. But thankfully, they also had them at the airport, so I wasn't too worried about it. But yeah, it's annoying that they, like they don't just sell like a complete set. You can't just go up and spend $40, and buy like a box of all 6 items at once. Like, they make a bit of money that way, a bit more money, and people would do it. But
that's the problem is they make way more money from the random nature of it. That's gacha.
Correct.
So
I got a set of the SNES 64 and Cube ones. I wanted a full set, and I had to do it 13 times to get a full set. So, yeah. So it's a bit of an annoying thing.
Gaijin problems. Just wanted to buy the whole thing outright.
That's the weird thing. So they sell the blind boxes. They sell blind boxings, but you can buy a box of the blind boxes. So you can buy one box to get a full set of things. So they do it. They're just not doing it for these, which is a little weird. But yeah, if Nintendo are at PAX Australia next year, they need to have these machines there. People will go nuts for them.
Yes, that's what they need. They need more ways to congest traffic at PAX or other Australian conventions.
They need something there. PAX was pretty dead this year.
I feel like Nintendo's really cutting costs with these gachas, though. They're not even real Zonai pieces. Get out of here.
I do like that they all come with a little stand, so if you don't want to put them on the fridge or whatever, they have a little display stand, and the stand looks like the glowy blob shape that is used when you glue them to things. So I do like that. But,
okay, that makes sense. I actually like that a lot. Never mind, forget what I said.
But I do prefer the actual controller ones. Not because they're cooler, because they infinitely are, but I just think the Zono ones, because they don't do anything, they're just like little display bits, and it's like, yeah, you've gone from having buttons and sticks that you can mess around with to just display.
But they
things
do something. You can stick them on your fridge.
Mark would just blinded himself.
These can stick on my fridge as well. Like, there's nothing stopping me from sticking this to the fridge. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they're cool, but I made the joke when I shared this in our chat that I'm like, guess I have to go back to Japan. But that was just, I wouldn't go to Japan all the way for just those. It's no point. But they're nice.
Not a real Nintendo fan. We get it.
Yeah.
Also, Luke, I just have to say this. I love the color scheme that you're wearing at the moment. It looks like you're about to fly the Death Star trench.
Oh my god! I think you missed it when he first came in. I think because he came in like, slightly late, but he had a background on, and the room was really dark, and he genuinely looked like a genie just came out of a lamp.
Great. For anyone who's just listening and not watching the show, like Luke's wearing a white and orange shirt, sitting in his chair with headphones on, and it just looks like he's in a X-Wing.
Good
Me.
stuff. Yeah, so speaking of things that are in Japan, we've had some really nice segues.
Speaking of things that are in Japan,
Yeah, I mean, this is relevant to people who might be going to Japan, you know?
I mean that's what we should just call this show, to be honest.
Yeah. Thinking about things that are related to Nintendo.
So the Donkey Kong Country part of Super Nintendo World in Japan is opening on December 11. They did a little direct for this, which I thought was okay, sure.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch it. I'm not really that interested. So the Donkey Kong Country section was, supposed to come in spring 2024. Delayed till later in the year. And yeah, now it's coming out. I guess, opening on December 11. It has one ride, which is Minecart Madness, in which the real track for it is hidden below a fake track, so that they can do things like, jumps and like all of that stuff that is clever and
all the busted minecart track that we've seen in the games since Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. And yeah, the Kong letters, K-O-N-G, are hidden around the world. There's interactive stuff, new food and merch and power-up bands, which also act as amiibo, although, I don't think anybody's gonna go to Super Nintendo World just to complete their amiibo collection with power-up bands. I'm sure somebody will.
I have one,
there are.
but
I was like, that's a sentence that doesn't need to be real.
I will say though, it's impossible to complete your collection because they did a gold Mario power-up band for the first anniversary of the land, and it was only out for like 6 weeks, and when they sold out, they never made it again. So even if you went there now, you'd never be able to complete your set.
This gold Mario amiibos fucking collectors to the end of time, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does this make you more or less likely to go to Super Nintendo World in Japan?
I do not give any shits
0%
about Super Nintendo
page.
World at all. Like,
I mean, I want to go, but like it doesn't. A new trailer for a new amusement doesn't make it more likely to make me be able to afford the trip. Is what I'm trying to get at.
if I was in Japan in the area, I would go, sure, like 100%. But like, theme parks are also like a nightmare for me. Like, everything about a theme park is just awful. It's just a billion people doing random bullshit that I hate, and there's lines everywhere. I hate lining up for stuff. Like, I just never do it. Like, nothing is good enough for me to line up for. I just don't care.
The irony there is that you like anytime that there is a new product.
All right,
out.
just dox me. That's fine. Hey guys, here's my address.
Sorry. The world. Oh man, I just got doxed.
I will say, I was at I was at Super Nintendo World last year, and they also have the land in Hollywood, at Universal Studios Hollywood. But the one in Hollywood is missing one of the rides. Doesn't have the Yoshi ride. But this land, is including Donkey Kong, is opening in Florida on May 22nd. Is when the new Universal theme park is opening with this land. And I'm heading to Florida next year, so I'll go to it there. But the problem is the land is so small. Like, they show in this video with Miyamoto, him walking around. It's 10 minutes long, and you see a lot of stuff. It's like, yeah, but the walk from the front to the ride is all of 50 meters. It's not a big land at all.
Yeah,
So-
it's pretty small.
Yeah, it's like, if it's the same with Michael. If I was already in Japan and had planned to go into Osaka, then maybe I'd go to it. But I wouldn't go all the way to Japan just to go for this one ride. Not because I'm
You
going
go
to
for the one ride and the $19 Donkey Kong banana split,
Well, maybe we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's cool, but there's not enough for me to justify going.
I'm very
Japan just for
curious
it.
to see like if anyone like on Reddit or something posts a comparison of like 6 months after Japan's Super Nintendo World opened, like the cleanliness of that, and then 6 months after the American one opens, and just seeing and just comparing images of that. I imagine
Yeah,
the
it'd be
American one would be grotty AF.
I just
So
got
the
to the
land-
part of the video with the hot dog, and it looks awful.
With the mayonnaise on the hot dog.
Oh god, it looks absolutely disgusting.
So I will say the lands are different between Japan and America. In Japan, the giant Donkey Kong ape mouth thing at the top of the temple is a mister, but in the States it's a waterfall. And that's it. That's the difference.
Cool. What I
Sorry,
love
just
about these videos is that it's just Miyamoto doing an absolute victory lap, going to amusement parks of his own stuff. And the best part is that, like, they just remind me, I don't know if you guys have seen these, those really weird North Korean propaganda videos that were coming out on TikTok of people being like, hey guys, North Korea is amazing. Look at our water parks. They're so fun. And they're just empty, like no one is there. That's what this looks like. It's just Miyamoto walking around empty amusement parks being like, this is amazing. Wahoo! Here is another man at the amusement park. Let's talk about this one thing. It's just like, oh my god, these are great.
I just went and had a look at this hot dog, and it is the most heinous hot dog I think I've ever seen. in my
It's
life.
awful.
I don't remember. I have to look this up now.
Let me find
And
a
the
timestamp for you.
timestamp is
There you
at
go.
like about 4 minutes.
Oh yeah, found it. There we go.
Why does it have corn chips stuck into it? Like, that's
It
already a huge red flag. The sausage itself does not look great. The bun looks horrible.
The bun
and,
is like 1/4 the size of the rest of the meal. Like,
It's unfortunately,
I
but
don't-
that's a standard type of way they do food in Japan.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but this hot dog doesn't even look steamed or anything, or boiled or whatever. Like it just looks like it's been fried.
It is.
I think it's
Or-
just
or
like,
roasted
chucked
or
in the
something.
oven. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's I think it's just a completely different style of hot dog that we're looking at here.
also, the hot dog bun looks like 2 buns that are just stuck together.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's 2 buns that are stuck together. They've just like cut down the middle to make a hot dog bun. It doesn't look great.
I mean, I'd eat it. It doesn't. I've seen worse American food, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's
I don't
fair.
know. The
Yeah,
banana
no,
split
to be
looks
fair,
good.
I'm not dunking on it because it's Japanese. I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
dunking
yeah.
on it because it's bad.
No, but I'm just saying for like theme park food, I've seen the crap that like they eat at like theme parks in America. I'm just like, oh. Whereas this one, like at a different theme park, like looks fine. And even the banana split, I kind of just want the mug. I've already got like a giant ceramic Donkey Kong barrel mug, but I'd want this one as well.
So there was a gentleman. He's a Japanese YouTuber, and he's a big Universal Studios fan. They invited him to go on the into the land, probably like the same day Miyamoto was there, and he got to ride the ride and he got to eat the food, and you get some weird close-ups of the food, and it looked better in his stuff than it does in what Universal shared or Nintendo shared. It's weird that it looks better, but it's like it's definitely made for the Japanese palate. So it'll be interesting to see if this food translates over to the American park, because I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they'll have mayonnaise on
Oh,
hot
no.
dog.
The hot dog is far too small to be in American hands. It'd be like twice the size for sure.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I need you to do me a favor. Just open that
Oh.
video up
Oh,
and
God.
without any explanation, just go to timestamp 429.
429.
It's just out of context. That image just makes no sense. Whoa, that's a mountain of bananas. Oh man, I want that as my blue sky cover photo thingy.
It's a new desktop wallpaper.
Yeah. Just old man looks at mountain of bananas.
I also love how like Donkey Kong can't really articulate his body properly. So when he goes to
Yeah.
hug Miyamoto, it's sort of just like
He
it's
sort of
weird.
just shrugs at him.
You know that man's posture is real bad in that suit.
So bad.
That is a big,
Yeah.
heavy suit.
I saw a short video the other day of somebody in a Kirby outfit, the really short Kirby one. They built a specialty ramp, and it's like
Oh
it
yes,
goes
I saw
like
this
high,
video.
and he just waddles
Yeah.
on the ramp, and then there's this like star-shaped platform, like trolley, and he gets on the trolley, and then they just wheel him around on the trolley like it's Kirby Air Ride. And but the fact that the ramp actually like matches the shape of the star, so it's like there's no gap for him to fall into. I just thought that was the most hilarious thing.
Anyway,
Oh, man.
Icon.
I feel like we spent way too long on this topic. That is really nothing.
I feel like the more I trash talk or just dunk on Super Nintendo World or other theme parks, the more it makes me want to go to them.
I'm just like a theme. Like, I do remember, like theme parks are great. Like I love rides, I just don't want people.
Yeah,
Like, if I could go to a theme park and just no one is there, dream
want your
scenario.
you want your encartment land.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you just need to like get to the point where you can be like super like mega fuck off rich, and then buy like a theme park that's about to be decommissioned.
Well,
Yeah,
have those
encartment land.
insane VIP tickets to Disneyland, right? Which is like 12 grand or something like 12 grand US for like 5 people or something.
Yeah.
I'd do that if I had a shit ton of money. But just for
Not that
me,
expensive.
fuck you guys.
But you can actually book out Disneyland. You can actually pay, and Disneyland will close the park at 6 p.m. and you get like 7 p.m. till midnight for you and your group, however many's in your group, up to like.
How much is that?
That's a
like
good couple of million.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like Disneyland is its own like
Yeah, that's a
country of
different
problems.
Yeah.
That has its own problems just in existing these days.
Yeah.
There's a great Jenny Nicholson video talking about. Well, she talks about all sorts of theme parks because that's her thing, but basically going to the unaffordability of Disneyland.
Alrighty. Let's move on. I was gonna make a dumb joke, but it's not worth it. Anyway, we'll move on to more Donkey Kong stuff. Because Nintendo seems to be going all in on Donkey Kong, which makes sense because there's the Donkey Kong Returns HD, whatever the fuck you call it, I don't know. Which is coming out in January, right?
Yeah. 16th.
So Nintendo has sort of ramped up marketing, especially because there's this theme park coming out and stuff. So Donkey Kong Land and Donkey Kong Land 2 have both been added to Nintendo Switch Online. Both Game Boy games. They happen like a week apart, not even that. So
It's like 4 days apart.
yeah, realistically, on Monday or Tuesday we'll probably get another one, and we'll probably keep getting Donkey Kong games on Nintendo Switch Online every few days, because there's a lot of them that aren't on there, including Angelo's favorite game. So
I'm glad you said it, Ollie, because I was about to make time to get mad.
When I first saw like the this article like pop up, I didn't really like read it properly. I thought it was DK94, and I was about to message Angelo and just be like super happy for him. And I realized it wasn't, so I didn't talk to him.
I'm happy that they brought them over, but it's like Donkey Kong Land is such a bad game. It's not broken or anything, but it's like the experience on the Super Nintendo version is so good that the Game Boy one is just utterly shit by comparison.
it's like it's kind of disappointing, right? Because like Donkey Kong Land 2 is like a really, really incredible conversion of Donkey Kong Country 2. Like it feels fantastic to play, which is like really incredible. And like Donkey Kong Land does not feel like that. The first game is terrible feeling. But it also has like actual unique levels and like
There's like an entire
unique
level
design.
on the top of a skyscraper under construction, like a world there.
So it has like really, really good like level design and stuff, but like it just doesn't feel good to play. And I wish that there was like somebody had ported the gameplay of Donkey Kong Land 2 over to Donkey Kong Land, because it really is an interesting game, but just not good.
Well, since we're not getting the good Donkey Kong ever again, when are we gonna instead get the Nintendo Full HD or 4K re-release of the Donkey Kong Country animated TV series? Where's that,
Somehow
Nintendo?
I think Nintendo's forgetting about that. Like it's
What?
like
They're
the
not allowed-
Mario
They're not
movie,
allowed
the
to
original
forget
one.
that if they're bringing up all this other Donkey Kong crap.
In any case, it does seem like we're probably going to get more. Like Nintendo released a trailer of Donkey Kong stuff, and like DK64 was in there. So like, let's be real, we're probably going to get that on Nintendo.
Probably get that next week. I reckon we'll get DK Land 3 this week, and then DK64 next week.
Lord, give me strength.
Release the lossless audio cut of the DK rap. That's all I want.
Yeah, honestly.
I still think that's hilarious. So just before I went to Japan, they put the Donkey Kong Country 2 soundtrack in the music app. And then when I was in Japan, I found in the same hard off I went to last year, the CD soundtrack for Donkey Kong Country 2 that they wanted $4,000 for. And it just makes me laugh that's it's still there. It was there last year and it's still there this year. And that they think they can get $4,000 for a CD soundtrack, but then they still think they can get it, a couple of days after it just got released for free to everyone. So it just made me laugh.
Another thing that would be interesting to add in terms of like DK games on Nintendo Switch Online is DK King of Swing for the Game Boy Advance.
Yep.
Wonderful little game that is like a spiritual successor to Clue Land, which, as we all know, is the greatest Nintendo game ever made. And yeah, I liked King of Swing a lot when I was a kid. Well, teen. So I can put it on Nintendo Switch Online because I feel like nobody's played that game. I'm like the only person on the planet who's played King of Swing, and
Played it.
disappointing. Because I want
Whenever
to see how
Clue
good
Land
it
gets
is.
brought up, I always get it mixed up with Kururin. I don't know why. Obviously because of the
They're the same game.
lettering. But yeah, I just get them mixed up all the time.
Anyway, in terms of other Nintendo Switch Online news, the Mega Drive finally got a new game. In fact, 3 new games. It's been 519 days since the last release, and yeah, they added
84 years, you mean?
Yeah. So yeah, there's Mercs, Vector Man, and Totem and Ollie and Panic on Funkotron were all added to all added to the system, which is super cool.
It is
all 3
so
games
unexpected. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it just came out of nowhere, right? It was like we were like, okay, well, like clearly they're just done with Mega Drive because it's been almost 2 years since the last one. Like, they're just not going to add any more, and then they just added some.
And wait, even weirder is this was the day after the Donkey Kong Land 2 drop.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know why this happened, or yeah. So the last one.
Nothing about these retro apps releases ever makes any sense at all.
True.
Apart from the Donkey Kong one, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Like it's almost like this was meant to be scheduled back in 2023, but they put a typo in the Google spreadsheet. They're like, 2024.
I made that joke. I said somebody had it ready to go. They just forgot to hit publish.
So
Yeah.
I can't remember if I told you guys, but this happened to me once with a DHL delivery.
Yeah.
I ordered something and I was meant to come in, like I think it was like December 2021, and it just never arrived. So they reshipped it. Then literally December 2022, that parcel was shipped to me. And I was like, they literally just held it onto it for a year. It was wild.
It's like the end of Back to the Future 2 or whatever it is.
Yeah, totally.
Just holding on to Doc's letter for 100 years. Oh man.
I was amazed. I was like, what the hell? Like, this is on a shelf somewhere for like, just bonkers.
That's a great way to just store shit though. Like if you're ever moving house or something, you're just like, I just need somewhere to store this, but I need to do it for free. Just mail it to yourself and be like, don't send back for 3 years.
Oh man.
That's amazing that they can just do that. Holy crap.
What a wild situation. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, more Mega Drive games. Hopefully they keep adding more because the Mega Drive is a fantastic console. So
Say Toe Jam and L is just, I think, such a snapshot into the 90s. I don't think I've seen a more
It really
90s
is.
thing in ages. It's incredible.
It's the most 90s. It is so 90s. I love it.
I will say though, one of those data miners did put out that they found the app had been updated and now uses the new Nintendo Online framework.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I mean, it makes sense.
is-
Like, I'm pretty sure the other apps were updated ages ago to
What does that mean
switch over, right?
for normal people? I have no idea.
Nothing in the grand scheme of things. Like, ultimately, it still comes down to like how the netcode is handled. But like, it does, like, the more modern servers are more reliable and generally have lower latency because of how they handle packet requests. So
They went from Windows XP to Windows 10.
pretty much.
That same thing, just slightly newer.
Yeah.
And better.
So yeah, it is like a little bit more reliable, and slightly lower latency, just like inherent latency in how players are connected and how packets are transferred and all that shit. So it doesn't really mean much for most players.
That's what I said to Vookcast. I said this is probably why it took a while. They probably just had issues trying to get some of the code in the app to work.
Well, ultimately, right, like the actual emulator in this is not developed by Nintendo, but it's M2's
M2, yeah.
emulator. So
That's why it's good.
yeah, I mean Nintendo's emulators are good too. I mean the N64 one is kind of
Also, why I bought that in Japan.
iffy. But all of Nerd's emulators, so like the Game Boy one, the Game Boy emulator on Switch is like just phenomenal.
Yeah, Game Boy's good. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's really hard to screw up a Game Boy emulator.
Yeah. And like to be fair, like the NES emulator on Switch is like pretty much as good as emulation can get without like being like cycle perfect. So yeah, it's we're in a good stage of official emulators right now. Again, the N64 one is still like, you know, a bit trash, but I mean N64 emulation in general is really difficult to get right. So
Is Pokemon Snap still borderline unplayable on the Switch?
yeah, because it has always been borderline unplayable because that's how it is on the original console as well.
Okay. I mean, I don't
The experience on
remember it being a problem.
Switch is
I don't
almost
remember it
identical.
being. It wasn't a problem on Wii U.
I
'Cause
mean,
I played through that game on Wii U and it controlled perfectly fine, and then I tried to play it on Switch and it was like 10 times faster and I couldn't aim at anything.
no, I don't think it has been like that at all. Like I've played it on Switch. I played it on Switch when it came out, and it was almost identical to the Wii U version.
Maybe I was high. I don't know. I remember playing it and I was just like, I cannot control anything. I'll have to
Maybe you set
retry
your
it.
Switch to 60 frames a second.
Oh, either that or it was just a fever dream. But I remember trying to play that game and I'm like, I cannot aim at anything like, at all. Like I flick the stick like the smallest amount and it just flies off the screen.
You set your
That's such
Switch
a
to
hard-
100i 20 frames a second to get
Yeah.
the real 64 experience.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an instance where like it was running slower on the Wii U because they used the PAL version. I don't know if the PAL version of Snap runs slower than the NTSC version.
Because most 64 games did by default.
Well, some games like I mean, I'm talking about like actual slower, not like perceived slowness. So like, does it actually run slower on PAL compared to NTSC? Like, did they adjust that? Like some games did. It's hard to say.
I could literally just answer the question for myself. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I mean,
apparently the
thing that
PAL
we're talking
version
about-
is much slower. So
Yeah, so I'm guessing the Wii U version used the PAL version
yeah,
of
But
the game, and the Switch version by default uses the NTSC version, which would be faster. So maybe that's why, like, it's just faster because the real game that was made for audiences outside of us was already a faster game. Anyway, we'll talk about the games that we're playing. Angelo right now is playing Pokemon Snap, so you know,
I am.
get the rest
Okay.
of his games in a second.
This seems to be working. I've got two versions of the app on my two versions of the N64 app on my Switch. I've just opened up one of them. I don't remember which one it is. Okay, it seems to be working okay. I'm gonna fire up the other one. But what I've been playing lately, let me quickly open up the thingy here. Oh god, where are we? Oh, that's right, Super Mario RPG. Still my bedtime game. Still don't know what's going on because I keep falling asleep and then forgetting what I did the previous night. I got into a fight with some pirate squid dudes at one point, and then they came to land and then they helped me fight someone else. I think we're friends now. I have no idea what's going on in that game. I've also been playing Star Wars Outlaws, which I'm actually really liking. I remember the discourse about that game was that it's not very good, or people like it's a total, like, you know, middle of the road kind of Star Wars game. I think those people are completely wrong. This is actually like a really good Star Wars game. I don't know what people are talking about.
I think it's the default, like it's Ubisoft, so dump on it. It's a woman lead character, so dump on it. Like it's just
I genuinely think like this is
default
one of the
gamers.
least Ubisoft games in a long time. Right? It doesn't feel like it's following the formula that we.
I mean,
know
yes
from Ubisoft
yes
games.
and no. Like for a Star Wars game, like I think it's like blows the Jedi series that EA's been doing kind of out of the water. Like the first one was fine. The second one I really didn't feel, and this one I'm just having an absolute ball in. I feel like Ubisoft, yes, in the sense that like just because it's a straight up Star Wars game, it feels like a Star Wars game and not a typical Ubisoft open world game. But that said, I feel like Ubisoft does open world stuff actually pretty well. Like everything's structured really well.
I mean,
The
they've been
level
recycling the
designs.
formula for 20 years. They should be good at it at this point.
Well, that's it, right? And like the formula works quite well in this context because it's the first one of a Star Wars game like this, so it's not completely, I don't know, by the numbers like it is with Assassin's Creed at this point, where you're just doing the same things over and over again. Like there is a little bit of variation here. Music's great; it's total Star Wars. But the thing that's really catching me is just the art style. Like everything looks amazing in this game. Like the different places that you go to visit look Star Wars, but also look ancient in a sense, in really interesting ways. I think the weakest part for me is some of the controls. There are times where I'm trying to pull up my gun or shoot or something like that, and the controls just get stuck and I get killed because things take a little bit longer than I want them to.
I know the thing that I saw in reviews that I would be like, nope, I can't do this, is the you drop the gun when you climb a ladder scenario. Is that still a thing?
No,
If
you
I
fix that.
don't even remember.
So
Yeah, I
if
don't
you
think
have
it's-
picked up like enemy weapons, when you like go up a ladder, you drop them. But like you can just like they only have like a very limited amount of ammo to begin with, right? Like you only have like 5
Yeah.
or 10 shots, so like it doesn't really
Right,
matter.
okay.
Like
And it depends if
you're not-
enemies have been using it much as well, because that'll eat into
Yeah.
how much you can use.
yeah. So like it people made like a big deal out of it, but like it's really like it doesn't change the design of the game at all. Like if you could bring it like, okay, you get like an extra 2 shots like in a different area, like okay, like that's really not going to change much. And like failing that, you can still tell Nix, who's like your little cat guy, to like go pick it up after you've climbed up a ladder anyway. So
Yeah.
like you don't even in most cases lose access to the weapon.
Cool. All right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's weaker in this game for me is the character Kay Vess. I think she is a little annoying at times, just because I feel like in order to make her likable, they've steered too far in the hey, like I'm incompetent, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm gonna try and smooth talk everything kind of, I don't know, characterization. It just kind of gets a little bit annoying after a while. Like she tries to be overly confident, but at the same time, like she's completely not confident in herself. It's just like, well, I feel like it's just better if they kind of went one way or the other. Otherwise, she just comes across as super incompetent, like she's a total Peter Griffin a lot of the times. And I just really don't like that kind of character. But I'm sure she'll get better over time. Got up to a point now where I've met ND5, who's the other character on the box, who's super cool. But yeah, absolutely having a ball with this game. My partner is really loving the moments where you have dinner with Nix, where like you go to these different little
God,
food
yeah.
outlet places, and it's just basically Monster Hunter with the calicos cooking like delicious meals. It's basically that, but you like play like a little mini game where you're feeding Nix and you're both eating, and you then get the dish as like a power up to boost some of Nix's stats that you can equip. But yeah, having an absolute ball with it. I do not understand what the complaints were with this game at all.
One of
It's
the complaints
really,
people
really
had
cool.
is that the stealth is too hard. And it's like, yeah, stop running in like a numpty.
Yeah, I mean, that's another
It's
thing. Where
stealth.
It's like,
You're not supposed to run. It's not fucking Call of Duty at this point, right? It's
But that's the
Splinter
other thing
Cell.
that-
Go slow.
This is where I feel like it's Assassin's Creed in a good way, because like there are a lot of times where in Assassin's Creed I try to find like the most optimal path in to try and be super stealthy and kill everyone and get the things that I want to get. But then when shit hits the fan, I'm just like Mr. Magooing myself all over the place, just crashing into the wrong things, getting caught by everyone. Like it just becomes a big kerfuffle, and I actually enjoy when things go like that, where everything goes bad in the best possible way. So yeah, I'm really digging this game. Don't understand what people were complaining about. From what I played, which was only about maybe like 15 hours or so, and I've only just left the first planet. I mean, it's probably sitting around like a solid 8 to 9 out of 10 for me. It feels like good Star Wars, and it's really a shame to me that like, I mean, I guess it's what it's always been, right? Is like the most interesting Star Wars has always been in the video games outside of the original trilogy. Like
Yeah.
it's genuinely like the most original Star Wars stories come out of the video games. TV series, there's some nuggets of interest in there, but it's mostly just like fan fiction pandering kind of crap. Whereas in the games, like there's always new characters, there's new lore, there's new backstory, there's new powers or something like that. There are just interesting things happening elsewhere in Star Wars mythos, and like this seems to be doing something along those lines as well. So yeah, I don't know, I'm into it. And then also Pokemon Soul Silver. I'm playing Pokemon Soul Silver on my phone because I got myself this bad boy. I can hold it up. So people who
Backbone.
can't see, it's a Backbone 1, it's a Gen 2, so it's got the USB-C connector in there so I can play it on my phone. Yeah, man, playing DS games on the iPhone or just a mobile device in general is just so good these days. The emulation on iOS is really good for DS. There are some games where it's a bit janky, but the Pokemon games seem to run really well, and I'm super happy.
I just want to point out that like it is like straight bullshit that like they had to release a new backbone for the USB-C support for iPhone when like the Android version already had USB-C. Like,
super annoying, super crap. Yeah. But with Black Friday sales, they're down to, you can get them at Big W for like $109 Australian, which isn't terrible because at retail they're $179 or $189, which is dog shit. So yeah, if you're listening to this 2 weeks in the past when you finally get it, jump on Black Friday sales or something, or just keep an eye out for Boxing Day sales for Backbones. Super comfortable controller as well. I like that it has a pass-through charging port, so you can continue to charge your device while you're playing. It makes my lunch breaks really nice because I tend to go for a bit of a walk during my lunch break, so I take this with me and I play some Pokemon and stuff. So yeah, super happy with it. Anyway, that's me.
yep, that was the longest segment
That was
of the
super
episode.
long. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I went in like 5 different directions as well.
Don't worry. Angelo took my time. It's all good.
No, please.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, please tell us what you've been playing.
Same shit as always. So Hell Let Loose a little bit, Satisfactory a little bit. I think the longest thing I'll talk about, I started playing Brothership and I really enjoy it. I cannot deal with the constant loading. It's really bad. Like it's long and it's often. So I'm just gonna wait until Switch 2, and I'm just gonna have the smallest hope of hope that there is some type of Switch enhancement that goes on. Maybe.
Yep.
And I guess we'll see.
Luke, tell us about what you've been playing.
So I played through Lego Horizon Adventures on PS5 for review, and I really enjoyed that. It's not the best Horizon game, but it's probably one of the best Lego games. So I really liked that one. I finally finished the God of War games. So I finished Ragnarok the other day on stream. It turns out, if you don't crash your bike and have a big accident and can't do anything for months, and then don't review video games, you can probably get through them a lot quicker than I did. But that was there. I've played through Avowed for a preview. Xbox gave me a code for that, which was really good. I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So I'm happy with that. And I can say this now because the review embargo will be up by the time this episode goes out. But I've been playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which I'm having a wonderful time playing. So.
Yeah. So I also played Avowed, the preview of Avowed. And yeah, I was really impressed by it. I was not super keen on it based on what we'd seen previously. But like that opening sequence is like super fun. It feels like the vibes of the world feel like very like Morrowindy, which is like exactly what I wanted out of a game like this. So yeah, super thrilled with how the preview of Avowed was. Also, it was phenomenally performing on PC.
Yeah.
It was rock solid the entire time, even with like ray tracing on, which I don't like ray tracing anyway, but I didn't turn it off because I didn't need to. It wasn't fucking tanking my performance like ray tracing usually does.
Mark would have just thrown up.
I'm just like, I think just saying I don't like ray tracing is a choice.
I don't give a shit about it. I don't think it should exist.
I think there's a difference between like it performs bad, so I don't like it, and not liking the visual output of ray tracing.
I think, look, I don't really give the slightest of fucks about realistic lighting, right? I think artistically directed, baked in lighting is always going to be more appealing to me than realistic lighting.
I think, I get what you're saying, but like both of those exist at the same time. You can have artistic lighting with ray tracing. Like ray tracing just makes it more accurate. That's all.
Right, but I don't give a fuck about accuracy. I want it to look good, not accurate.
Yes, but I think okay. Look, I'm gonna get into an argument. It's not really important. Ignore me.
Anyway, like I don't think like it's anywhere near the point of being worth the performance hit. And like for me,
that's
like,
fair.
Right? Is that like I would rather go with like the baked in, better performing lights, even if they don't look as realistic or as accurate or even as in situations. Like I will always take. I think like the one thing that I do notice in games ray tracing on is ray trace reflections, because like better reflections are like a thing that you can turn on and be like, wow, that looks really nice.
When metal looks like metal because it's reflecting the light correctly.
But like you can also do that without ray tracing, so like let's be real. Anyway,
I will say though, the only problem with Avowed at the moment is that there's no fucking disc in the box at retail. So they're only doing the premium edition at retail, and it's a steelbook, comes with a code in the box, and it's like, that is not how you do fucking retail.
Yeah.
Code in the box, and Ubisoft do this with Switch games, 2K doing it with them. They'll release them, like first run will be a cartridge, and then after that it's code in the box. It's like, no, if you're not going to do a cartridge, or if you're not going to put a disc in the box, do not put it to retail. There's no benefit to doing that. Code in the box is not a retail release.
Anyway, it is quite a fun game. And like I was worried that it was going to be like, because you know how like the Outer Worlds, right? That's the one that they made, and not the one that is a gorgeous puzzle game. Because they why did they release in like a month apart and have basically identical names? Anyway,
Outer Worlds RPG, Outer Wilds fun puzzle game.
Yeah. Anyway, they made the Outer Worlds, and it was kind of like just like you know, we have Fallout at home kind of experience. This does not feel like we have Skyrim at home. It does feel like its own thing, and honestly kind of better than the Elder Scrolls series so far, but we'll see how it goes. I've also been playing a lot of Pokemon TCG Pocket, just personally and also for work, because I have to do guides and shit on that. So that's been fun.
Such a challenge for you, Ollie, to play a Pokemon game for work.
It's like I wake up and like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to pay 4 hours of Pokemon TCG Pocket today. What a difficult life I live. Yeah,
but then you have to spend like 7 hours writing about it.
Yeah, which is
that's the
like
difficult
a
part.
bit of a downside. Yeah, and then Dungeons of Dreadrock 2, which is an indie puzzle game. I really loved the first game. The second game is really, really good, and on Switch, there's a review up on Vookcast for it. I didn't write that one.
Did they remove the fucking menu things on the side?
Did they? That's a good question.
Like, I'm sorry, that's like the one thing that just totally like put me off about the game. Is that like
it's the Aussie guy that made it?
No, he's German.
Yeah.
No, there's no menu thing on the side of the screen.
I'm still annoyed that he never updated the first game to remove it, because it just looks like a mobile game. Because it just has the menu permanently on the screen. I'm like, just why? You don't need to have it on this fucking screen.
The thing about this game is that it was not made for mobile first. So this was made for Switch as the target platform. It's also coming to PC on Thursday, so probably like 2 days ago by the time this comes out. So yeah. And I have also been playing Fantasian Neo Dimension, which was previously an Apple Arcade exclusive and now is on Switch and stuff. It's a good game. It looks nice. I think it is quite difficult, and like, let's be real, $85 for this is probably a bit much. But you know, I'm enjoying it. So yeah.
$85 if you could get it on cartridge before you know. That didn't happen here.
Just pay $10 in Apple Arcade and get it for a month.
I mean, there is new stuff compared to the Apple Arcade version. Like, they did do a lot of extra work on it. So that's nice. But I don't know if
you can save $70 and play a slightly less version of it.
Yeah, Or if you have like Apple TV, you can play it on that as well, like with a connected controller, which is super fun. Anyway, Nintendo 20 questions. It's been a while, Michael, since you were the person.
It's me. I prepared. I remember this time.
Because last time
I didn't.
you were supposed to do it, you did not.
Yeah, Luke reminded me 30 minutes before we started recording, and I panicked. But I'm here. Also, you get one less guess because Ollie said ray tracing was bad.
Thanks, Ollie.
I stand by it.
I'm
keep
jokes,
saying
jokes.
it. Keep taking our guesses off. I'll say it again.
Oh, goddamn.
All right, good to go.
Was this game released in the 90s?
It was not released in the 90s.
See, this is the problem with that. Like, having it that way, right? Because it could be before the 90s now, or it could be after. And if you'd asked January 1st, 1990, or later, then we would know if it became before the 90s or after the 90s. You fucked us, Angelo.
No, but then we still got to ask if it was released in the 2000s or the 2010s. We still have to
I know,
narrow it
but
down.
like now it could go either way. Like we would have knocked something out if it had been after, right? Like,
I have no
Well,
issue
look,
with Angelo's question.
Ollie-
I have an issue with the decade he picked.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, we didn't lose that question. We still have an extra question.
What's
We
wrong with the
can still-
90s? I feel like that's actually a pretty good on-point guess, to be honest, for me.
I mean,
Angelo sees into my heart.
Was this game released after January 1st, 2000?
Yes.
see, now we know that it's not 1980 because, like, you know, we could have asked if it was in the
Just could have asked if it was the
2000s.
2000s and it would have been.
I know, but then we wouldn't, like, that's the thing, right? Is like, we know it's after this point. This is why we ask the questions the way that we do. And like, it might annoy you, but like, it does actually have utility to ask in that specifically.
I'm glad we are still giving air to this issue.
To the end of time, we'll be like in our like retirement homes playing Switch 34.
Literally just add to that question, was this game released in the 90s or later? And it's still
Okay, well,
wouldn't
why
be-
didn't you ask that then?
Because I asked if it was a 90s game.
I have no issue with what Angelo said. I'm going to ask the next question. Was this released for a Nintendo home console?
It was not released for a Nintendo home console.
And I know we have to clarify this occasionally, but the Switch is considered the home console, right?
Yes, I am aware.
I would say that the Switch is more of a handheld than it is a home console, but like,
Oh, let's not go down this.
Well,
This
I
is
still-
a whole different argument.
But just to add to that, I still keep getting confused. Do we count the Virtual Boy as a home console?
Okay,
We
I
don't
think,
know
okay.
how
Let's
Virtual Boy
just talk about it
works.
right now. No one is ever gonna put a Virtual Boy game in any 20 questions ever. Until the
I
end
was
of
tempted-
time, we're
I
done.
was tempted to buy one when I was in Japan, but it was $700, and I was like, I don't really need it that much.
I saw that a comic book store in Adelaide City was selling like 4 Virtual Boy games, and I took a photo, forgot to send it to you guys. So I'll do that later. But I could just buy the games and not the console.
So for me, the Virtual Boy is a handheld because it doesn't connect to a TV, and it actually requires you to hold on to it to, you know.
here's my
You're
thing.
not, you're not
right?
holding the console like this.
It doesn't though. It has a little stand. You don't need to hold
Yeah,
on
yeah,
to
but-
it.
But it doesn't connect to a TV, so
Okay, here's my thing. Nobody has ever fucking played a Virtual Boy game. So nobody is ever gonna... I couldn't even name one. I could not name one right now. Like, is
Mario
Virtual Boy
Tennis.
Tennis, right? Is it called Virtual Boy Tennis? Is it called Mario Tennis?
I think it's
Like,
just Mario Tennis.
I don't know, right? Like, and
That's the
nobody
only one
knows.
that I know.
Like, let's just ban them forever, right? Virtual Boy, just off limits. Never gonna happen unless...
It's
Teller-
Mario's
Teller-
tennis.
Telero Boxer.
Oh yes, you know the
Force.
popular game Telero Boxer.
And
That's my point. It was
Tetris.
like, at the best of times, nobody, like, it's so obscure that like nobody's gonna guess it anyway. So like, I think it should be banned unless the Virtual Boy games get some kind of modern re-release officially. In which case,
Yeah.
they're then on the table.
Then it's fair
if it
game.
gets added to Switch Online, then totally fair game. But until then,
Speaking of things in Japan, was this game made in Japan?
Oh my god! Yes, it was. Yes, it was made in Japan.
Okay. So
it's
wait,
on a handheld.
do we know when this game was made? Was it in the 2000s?
No, we don't know because
Yeah, see, fuck me, Ollie. We don't even know when it's made. Like, we've asked 2
No, but-
questions about the eras and we still don't know when it's made.
So I said, was it made after January 1st, 2000? And he said yes. So we know it's made in Japan. It's a handheld game, and it's made, you know, after January 1st, 2000.
I didn't say it was handheld. I said it wasn't a home console.
Yes, which definitely means handheld.
Okay.
Now you got me thinking.
I mean, it could be like Super Mario Run, but
But we already had that.
it could be Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. It could be Pikmin Bloom. It could be Pokemon Go.
It could be
hundreds of
Dragon,
games.
whatever it is.
Pikmin Bloom was made in US.
Okay, sure.
What was that? Was that Dragon game that was on mobile?
Ever Oasis.
Galia Lost.
Oh, Dragalia Lost.
Dragalia Lost. That's the one. That's the one.
All right, fine. Was this game released on a mobile device?
No.
I knew it wasn't. I knew it wasn't, but I'm like, let's get it out of the way.
Oh boy.
All right,
Got him.
Was the console that this was released on? Did it have 2 screens?
It did not have 2 screens.
Okay, so
So
It's-
late stage GBA. Oh, sorry, GBA
Oh.
or late stage Game Boy.
with Game Boy Color, or GBA. Somehow, original Game Boy games were still being made in 2000.
Yeah, I know. Okay, what was this game released on an advanced platform?
Fuck me.
Just
say good word.
totally. No, the game was not released on an advanced platform.
So
It's Game Boy,
It's
Game Boy
either-
Color.
Game Boy Color, yeah.
okay. Is it a Pokemon?
Is that
Is
a question?
No. I was just musing.
All right. Does this game feature recognizable Nintendo characters?
Game does feature recognizable Nintendo characters.
Are Pokemon Nintendo characters?
They're owned by Nintendo.
Are these characters that live in and around the Mushroom Kingdom?
No, they do not.
And now I'm thinking, I'm like, recognizable Nintendo, but not directly or not connected with Mushroom Kingdom. For Game Boy, that drops it down significantly.
Well, not really, because there's stuff out. I mean, kind of, yeah. It depends. Like, there's a whole bunch of Zelda games. There's like hundreds of Pokemon games. I feel like Zelda is like most likely, right? But it could also just be like, fucking Metroid 2. I don't know when that came out.
That was
that
like
was like
1991, 92,
92,
something like that.
That was my first game on Game Boy. The Zelda, the Oracle games, were they 2000 or were they 99? I think they're 2000.
I think they were 2000, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think like 2000 or later would be most likely.
Is this an adventure game?
No, I would not classify it as an adventure game.
Okay. So it's not a Pokemon in that
No.
case, because that's
Well-
an adventure game. I would
Well, it's
class
an
it as
RPG. Like Zelda
But it's
is
still a-
100% an adventure game.
But you're still on an adventure. You're still exploring. You're still.
Okay, but like by that, any game with a named character is an adventure game. If it's like on an adventure, counts as adventure game.
All right, I mean, so was this game made by Nintendo?
Yes.
So that kind of knocks out the Oracle games because they were made by Capcom. And the Pokemons were made by Game Freak.
I still don't even know what type. Like, I mean, is this an RPG of some kind?
This is not an RPG.
Okay.
Oh, that was our 10th question. Sorry, 11th question.
Mm-hmm.
For those
It's definitely
wanting to
not
keep track.
Pokemon, and it's definitely not any kind of Zelda game. So,
So,
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think this was gonna be super hard. I was maybe this is a little bit like left field, maybe, but like not difficult.
Yeah, the problem is just trying to find the right hook.
I will say
So
there are
just-
several hooks that will get this for you for sure.
Is this game a platformer? No, sorry. Is this game a side scroller?
No, I wouldn't. No, I don't think anyone would classify it like that.
Okay.
So, Nintendo made game not featuring recognizable Nintendo characters, but not connected to the Mushroom Kingdom for Game Boy or Game Boy Color.
And it's not a side scroller either. So what are some Nintendo games that don't fit any of those descriptions? That came out in a very short period of time.
Is this a game in the Kirby series?
This is a game in the Kirby series.
Fucking tilt and tumble, guarantee it.
Could ask if you tilt and or tumble in it. Just nip that
Yeah,
one.
go ahead. Ask Angelo.
Do you tilt and or tumble in this game?
You do in fact tilt and or tumble in this game.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Oh,
Just which
there we
one?
go. All right. Should we just guess then? I mean,
I don't know. We got 6 more if we really want to make sure.
Four
Five
and a
more.
guess. Four and a
Yeah,
guess.
four and a guess.
We've got to take one off because Ollie fucked around before as well. So
that's true.
no, go for it. It's your guess.
All right. Is this game Kirby Tilt and Tumble?
No, it is. Yeah, so Game Boy Color exclusive, developed by Nintendo, R&D 2, published by Nintendo, at least in 2000 in Japan, 2001 North America. Yeah, follows Kirby through some maze-like levels with some accelerometers and a cool special cart. It's Kirby Tilt and Tumble.
Firstly, one of the
Yeah.
very few Kirby games that was not made by HAL Laboratory.
Yeah.
Which
I think that's why it was throwing me, because made by Nintendo, Kirby games are always made by HAL, so I never think about
yeah.
them. It's like Paper Mario is always made by Intelligent Systems, so if there was ever a Paper Mario made by Nintendo or Capcom, I'd never think of it, because the Paper Mario, I think, Intelligent. So
I just always forget about Kirby games because whenever one new one comes out, I'm like, oh, that looks cool, and then I just don't play them, so I forget about them immediately.
happens to most Kirby games. Most people think they look cool but never play them.
Yeah, it's I should do something about that.
If only there was a console that had most Kirby games on them now.
Oh, if only there was a console in my house that had every single Kirby game that was handheld. Like, yeah.
Except Tilt and Tumble, I guess. Funnily enough.
No, Tilt and... Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I should have Tilt and Tumble on there.
I mean, yeah. I don't know if there's a patch for it or anything that allows you to play it without the accelerometer. I'm not sure.
Oh, wait, yeah, for the analog, you're right. Oh, well, I could just do it on my phone instead.
Has
Nice.
NVIDIA Broadcast gotten better? I feel like it's actually not
Freaking out.
like fucking Luke at every opportunity anymore.
They did put a big update out for it, so
Did they?
I haven't got any updates for it in a long time.
no. It's
Maybe
not
it's one
it's
that you
not a
download.
it's not a big program update. It's a software only thing, because they also
Oh, right. Through the
They're like drivers.
drivers, yeah.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
This is still part of the episode. We're still fucking
Yeah.
talking.
I mean, like, if anyone listens to this podcast, no one is unaware of this happening. Like, we do this every 5 seconds. Someone mentions something, and the whole podcast like derails.
Yeah.
If anyone listens to this podcast.
We all know the viewership numbers. We all know it's true.
It's been getting higher. Like the last one was listened to like by 800 people, which is like huge
Yeah.
compared to
Nice.
previous ones. So
Wow.
yeah. Thanks. I mean, there was also the episode where I potentially defamed a company. So, maybe it was just all of the lawyers that were listening to it. In any case, And that about wraps up this week's episode of the Vookcast. I say this week's, we don't really have a schedule for this. Be sure to visit the site www.vooks.net for all your Nintendo news, reviews, and everything in between. To keep up to date, follow the site on Twitter at vooks.net, or probably go to Blue Sky instead, because that is a better website, which is vooks.net, not spelled out. There's also our Discord, bit.ly/Vooks Discord. You can find all of our social information and links for all the stories covered in this episode in the episode notes on whatever platform you're listening to. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next show.